Now release date at postponed. So suppose loan was taken for 6 months. Now loan has become for 8 months, 9 months, 12 months kind of this thing. So that 6 month additional cost has increased for the producer.
Whenever a money is borrowed from from the bank,
Yes.
what is the repayment cycle like?
See, repayment cycle is always fixed with the tentative release date. If I go to new bank, they first of all they will say no, it's very risky business.
But why do they think?
It's a perception. Basically, it's perception, and industry. I would say the industry has not worked towards that to change the perception. Industry producers to pay 3% or 4% per month.
Okay.
I cracked the deal at around 3.5% per annum.
Hi guys, this is Himesh and welcome to Pinkvilla. Over the last 1 year, multiple films have been postponed and we have often heard how the delay in release has resulted to spike in budget due to the rising interest cost. But never did we know what exactly does the interest mean. So today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Sanjay Bhandari, who has financed multiple films from Aake, Dhoom to Simba more recently. So let's speak to him and know what exactly does the interest cost mean. Welcome to Pinkvilla, sir. It's a pleasure having you here.
Same here.
Sir, to start with, like I said in the introduction, over the last 1 year, interest factor has been a constant conversation all through the industry in the pandemic. Could you explain as to how exactly does this interest factor work in, increasing the budget of a film?
Because of that COVID delay, right?
Yeah.
Because of COVID, the movies has got delayed that release. And then what happened when you borrow money for production and for those limited period, okay, by so and so date, I will release the movie and then loan get be repaid out of the revenue. But because of pandemic, film release get postponed. So your interest loan remains in the system. Once the loan remains in the system, keep incurring the interest every day basis, even 24/7.
Correct.
Okay, so now release date at postponed. So suppose loan was taken for 6 months. Now loan has become for 8 months, 9 months, 12 months kind of this thing. So that 6 month additional cost has increased for the producer.
Okay.
That's why if you see many of the producers have sold their movie on OTT, right, digital rights. So they could recover their money upfront and use that cash flow to repay the loan or start the new business.
Correct.
Some of the big budget movies which are made for the big screen. So that's why I waited for that the pandemic get over and they get a window to release it. Now you see that many announcements are happening that coming on the theater, kind of this thing. So yeah, for them also interest cost was a burden, but the project size is so big, revenue expectation, audience expectation is so, they say that will be recovered. Okay, the profit will reduce some portion, but they will recover it. But by that time also what happens, because of this pandemic, the digital revenue of this industry has grown up tremendously. If you see the numbers, the kind of deals are happening with the prices which never heard. Digital prices are even more than the satellite rights,
Correct.
TV rights. So that increased revenue because of this pandemic also, somewhere minus, but somewhere plus also.
Yeah. But what exactly is the percentage of interest that is being charged on a yearly basis for a Bollywood film in today's time?
Today I would say that they are at par with the big corporates.
Okay.
Now they are getting interest in single digit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is surprise for the people because private financial used to charge 30% per annum. Still they are charging 24% is a minimum.
Okay.
But if you go to the bank, they pay in single digit, 9%, 10%, maximum 11%.
Okay.
So it's not big interest cost for them.
Okay.
It's 9% is not. Even not even 1% per month. So Bollywood has grown tremendously. The revenue patterns has grown tremendously. So they are also at par with the big corporates. So they are getting a good rate of interest.
Correct. But what is the repayment cycle like for this? Whenever a money is borrowed from from the bank,
Yes.
what is the repayment cycle like?
See, repayment cycle is always fixed with the tentative release date. And old days when we started film financing, it was to be all loan to be paid before Friday.
Okay. Like the Friday of release.
Yeah, for Friday of release. So Thursday all loan would have been repaid, kind of this thing. But now in later part we see that film industry has grown. The TV rights was not there in 2002 much was there, but not a percentage of overall revenue. Digital right was not there at all. Now if you see currently, these non-theatrical rights around 60%, 70%, 80% is the cost of production. So
Correct.
my revenue is more has also got additional revenue from these rights, and this revenue comes post theatrical release. So now onward, we have restructured the repayment schedule with the bank. We convince the bank. So part money I pay before theatrical release, and part money we pay post theatrical release. That because that money, whatever going to get from that digital play like OTT, like Netflix, Amazon, and TV like G, Sony, Star, whatever. So that portion, whatever money to come, that goes post release. So now producer doesn't have much burden to make the payment before Friday.
But it is often said that it is very difficult to convince banks to give money to Bollywood producers because this is a risky line of business. Has that changed, or how are you planning to change that thing in the market?
I am fighting every day for that. But luckily, whichever the bank who's already I'm doing for the last 18 years, bank funding, I done around 150 movies. So which are the banks I'm regularly, they find pretty comfortable. They keep lending one after one. If I go to new bank, they first of all they will say no, it's a very risky business.
But why do they think?
It's a perception. Basically, it's perception, and industry. I would say the industry has not worked towards that to change the perception, because industry is not dependent totally on institutional funding. If I say today institutional funding in the overall industry is very minuscule. If you see the compare of the film, still people are going to private financer for easiness to getting money. They charge higher money, but they say we get money in 7 days. Bank don't give you money in 7 days.
Correct.
They take at least 2 months to process and all. So that we have not been able to crack. I have not been able to crack that timing gap. But still people who have like a deep pocket, who can sustain with own money and all, they still go with the bank funding.
Okay.
Many of the production house has their line of credit. They have a funding pattern there. And being a single digit, I don't think they have a kind of this thing.
Okay.
Risk is there because every bank, the media industry is like in the watch list or negative list and all, which I am still fighting with every bank.
Correct. But, like you said, there are a lot of producers who opt for private funding because of because they give funds.
Fast money.
Fast money.
Quick, yeah.
What's the interest rate that they charge like? And
they must be not less than 18%. So 1.5%, 18% to 24%. 18% I'm talking about AAA rated, but that AAA rated don't borrow from private finances. No big established production house nowadays borrow from any private financer. Okay. If they borrow from the institutional, or rather they don't even borrow.
Okay.
There are many of the Indian production houses are there, they don't even borrow. They have sufficient money, they pre-sell the rights. See, today being a new studio has come in. See, I'll tell you, when we started 2002, I'll take 10 minutes for you, or 2 minutes. When we started fighting with the private financer. The private financial, the charge huge money, so institutional have came in and banks started funding it. It was little bit difficult for documentation, taking time and all, but still it was good because you are getting banking money. So you don't get many, income tax, from where you white money.
Yeah.
So that was a black and white era was there. So bank has helped them to come into white. After the bank came in, because of bank financing, the industry image has changed. They become corporatized.
Correct.
When I did one funding in 2004, it was a milestone for everyone, for me also. Industry producers to pay 3% or 4% per month.
Okay.
I cracked the deal at around 3.5% per annum.
Oh, if you could name.
No, name I can't say. It's one of the biggest production house of Bollywood, I would say. Okay, so that was there. Thereafter, that industry has changed because everybody say, yeah, he borrow, why not we borrow? That way, the business of the institutional funding has increased.
Okay.
Once institutional funding began, many of the films started producing. That production house used to be produce one film in 18 months.
Okay.
After the bank funding started, 4 to 5 production in a year.
Oh, okay.
So at that point of time, the size of industry is about 35 billion rupees. मतलब 3,500 करोड़. आज इंडस्ट्री की साइज होगी 18,000 करोड़ मिनिमम.
In last 20 years, has there ever been an instance when आपने एक फिल्म का फंडिंग किया and वो फिल्म रुक गई?
नहीं, touch wood not.
Okay.
Touch wood not.
And in case, like in industry, there have been so many films which have been stalled midway. In such a case, how does film financing work? Because film तो बनी नहीं है. So
नहीं वो see today what happened? पहली बात तो फिल्म प्रोड्यूसर को पैसा कौन देता है? कौन से प्रोड्यूसर को पैसा मिलता है? उन्हीं प्रोड्यूसर को पैसा मिलता है जिसकी गुडविल है, जिसका ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड है. तो आज ऐसा मेरे हिसाब से कोई प्रोड्यूसर ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड वाला नहीं है जिसकी फिल्म कोई डब्बे में पड़ी होगी.
करेक्ट.
तो मेरे हिसाब से 15 लोग होंगे हिंदी इंडस्ट्री में जिसको फंडिंग मिली होगी, 15, 17, 20 होंगे, ऑल आर टॉप ग्रेड। आई डोंट थिंक एनी किसी का फिल्म डब्बे में पड़ा है। और यदि डब्बे में रह भी गया कोई रीजन से कि कोई कुछ हो गया, तो भी प्रोड्यूसर मेक द पेमेंट अवेलेबल सम अदर सोर्सेज and make the repayment to this thing.
Okay. Which is the costliest film that you have financed for till date?
It keep changing.
So till date, like as of today, which is the costliest?
I think so many costliest movies are there. So many, but release movie, what name I told you, that are the kind of this, like Kabir Vidana Kana was one of the costliest movie at that time of era. Simba was also one of the costliest at that kind of era. Now the cost is changing every week according to me. Every week movie costs are increasing because revenues are increasing. So that what is there.
Correct. Perfect. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you.
For me
And
also same.
Thank you so much and wish you all the best.
Thanks.